In the following video series, we are going to learn about edu.net. Edu.net is a mechanism to communicate with the database. It allows us to work with the connected as well as disconnected architecture. Now let us talk about the connected architecture. In connected architecture, what happens is that while the operation is performed, the database connection is alive. Means database connection is alive and your operation will be performed. And in disconnected architecture, what happens is that once the record is retrieved from the database, you can close the database connection and then you can perform operation on the records that is returned from the database. Now throughout this demonstration, I am going to use a demo database, and in that demo database we have a table called personal detail, and this is the structure of the personal detail table, where we have auto ID, auto increment, first name, last name, age and active. First name is of varchar, last name is of varchar, and size is 50, age is int, and active is bit type, so you can store either 0 or 1, that is true or false. Now in order to work with edu.net, we will have to use certain namespaces. The first is that system.data, naturally, because that contains the data set or data tables, and then system.data.sql client, because we are dealing with the SQL server, so we'll have to use SQL client. In case we will deal with the OLEDB database, then we'll have to use system.data.OLEDB client. And then system.text, naturally, because I have to just concatenate many strings, then we are going to use system text, but system.text is nothing to do with this with the edu.net. So the main namespaces that is used in edu.net is system.data and system.data.sql client. Now one connection string that will be common in throughout all the videos or throughout all the how-tos that I will cover under edu.net is this, where I will have a connection string. Its name will be constr and its value will be my database connection strings. In your case, this connection string data may vary, because your server name may be different, your database name may be different, and your password name may be different. So just change this accordingly. Now in the first how-to related with edu.net, we are going to see that how to retrieve data from the database. Okay, so let us copy paste this code in my aspx.cs, means in the code behind. So let me delete my existing code, and I'm going to copy paste my connection string settings as well. So here is my connection string setting, and this code I'm going to copy paste into under my page load event. So here is my page load event, and here it goes. Okay, there is certain error, so I'm just going to rectify this error, and then hopefully my code will work. I hope there is no more error. Okay, so I have to remove naturally this page load also. Yes, so here is my code. Now naturally we will have to use two namespaces as I have described earlier, so let us use those namespaces. Let me copy paste these namespaces from here. So yes, now you can see that all the errors are gone. Now yes, now let me describe this code one by one. Okay, So here first what I have done is that using system.configuration namespace we are using configuration manager dot connection strings, and we are passing the name of the connection string, means this name, and we are getting the connection string value into my underscore constr variable. And then under page load event we are first instantiating this data table, and then I have one variable called auto id. Do not worry about this too much. And then we are using the using block. The using block makes sure that once our work is done using this SQL connection object, then this SQL connection object gets closed and disposed. Okay, so that's why I'm using block. You can also use try catch block, but it is always suggested that whatever object that inherits with iDisposable interface should be used with the using block, so that the close and dispose method is automatically called. If close method is not there, then dispose method is called automatically. So that's why I'm using this using block here, and this is the best practices as well. And then under the using block, after instantiation of the SQL connection object by passing the connection string, we are writing the SQL statement. This is the SQL statement that will basically retrieve all the data from the database whose auto ID is something that I will specify. So here my auto ID is 1. So what I want is that I want to retrieve all the records from personal detail table whose auto ID is greater than 1. In this case I am using the simple SQL statement here itself. In the real scenario you can create a stored procedure and you can execute that stored procedure. I am going to cover that as well in following videos. And then once we have the SQL statement, then we are using the SQL command object by passing the SQL statement that we need to fire and the connection to be used. So in this case I am using the same connection that I had instantiated earlier, and because this SQL statement is using one parameter, so I am adding one parameter to this SQL command. You can see that SQL parameter prm equal to new SQL parameter, and here is my parameter name @auto-id. You can see this is @auto-id, and the value of the parameter will be the auto ID that I have declared here. And then we are adding that parameter into the command object. See this command object dot parameters dot add, and then the SQL parameter. Now once we have the command object, then what we can do is that we will instantiate the SQL adapter, and in the constructor of SQL adapter we will have to pass the command object. Now this is the command object that we had used just now. Here you can see, and we are passing that command object into the constructor of the SQL adapter, and then we can call the fill method of the SQL adapter. You can see that I am calling the fill method, and this fill method accepts two parameters. It can either accept data set or data table. Okay, there are many other overload as well. We may talk about this later on, but here because this SQL statement return only one result set, so I am passing parameter as data table. So my data table is table that I had instantiated at the top. And once we have executed the fill method, what happens is that it basically execute this select statement against the database and retrieve all the records and fill into this data table. And then what we are doing is that we are looping through all the data rows of the data table and then writing their values on the page using response.write. Very simple. Now let me run this page and see that how it is looking like. So here is my page, and looks like there is some bug here. So yes, now I'm refreshing. Keyword not supported user. Okay, I think there is some problem in the web.config file. So user ID. Now let me run my page again, and you can see that it will connect to the database. It will fetch the records from the database, and then it will populate on the page. Let's wait for a couple of minutes. Okay, there is some error related with the network related instance. Okay, let me Okay, so there was one bug here. My server name was not proper. So now you can see that I have corrected the server name, and you can see that all my records from this database table is being listed here. Now let me show you the records of the database table. Here is my records from the database table, and all those records is being listed on the page here. So this was the very simple code that will basically execute the SQL statement against the database and list all the records using the for each loop and print on the page.